Oh, isn't that the cheesiest sound in like the history of the world? All right, okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first session. We're talking planning today. Just, I suppose, overall planning your session so that you can achieve greater results for your young people and for your program, and so that you can put things out on the floor that you're proud of, but also that will be able to help take your program to the next level. So I've planned a session that could take anywhere between half an hour to an hour. And then you'll be seeing this in the Tumble Hub group when I upload it. There will be documents that I will share with that kind of add to what I've been talking about in this recording. So if you're watching, thank you very much. If when you've watched it, you've got questions that you want to ask or anything like that, please feel free to drop them in the comment section, and then I will get back to you as soon as I can. But to give you a little bit of context, then I've been the lead tumble coach at AUC now for pretty much around sort of 7 to 8 years, and in that time, I started uploading some stuff to Instagram, and as a consequence of that, I've been traveling around and working with lots of different programs, lots of different young people, developing their tumble. So I've done a lot of session plans and I've messed up a lot. And I've had to learn from those mistakes and try and work out what works best for me. And what I'm going to talk through today with you really is just the things that I've found that have given me confidence with coaching, but has also kind of given the athletes the confidence that I need them to have, not just in themselves, but in me and in the content that I'm delivering, so that they can see a clear pathway to the success that they want to achieve. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is, how do you approach tumble? And what I mean by that is, or what I want you to be thinking about is, are you busy or are you productive? And I think that's the first thing that I really want you to kind of look at your own practice and think, which one am I? Because we all want to go in, work hard, and get our athletes to the next level. But what does that look like? Because hopefully we're all planning our sessions, but does it get to the point where you're kind of like, well, I've done this before. I know what I need to do. I can just walk into the session and I can deliver the session. And that's okay to an extent. But at what point are you reflecting on what you've delivered before and then adjusting what you're delivering going forward as a consequence? So are you busy or are you productive? Because if you have a clear structure for what you are going to achieve or what you are going to deliver in a session or across a sequence of sessions, your structure will equal efficiency and your efficiency will equal productivity, because the athletes will have a clear understanding of what your expectation is going to be. All right. Not just in what you're delivering, but also your expectation of them. So when you do this, if the athletes can see that it's a little bit ad lib and that you're kind of making it up on the spot, then that doesn't really set the high standard that you want them to have when they're trying to learn what you're delivering. So it's really important that you come in with that clear structure, because they will see that you are on top of everything. They will see that you're on top of what the warm-up is, the timings for that, what each drill is going to be in each circuit. And that makes you efficient and that makes them productive. So that's the kind of thing that's going to kind of weave with everything else that I'm going to be talking about today. Sorry if you can hear the dog barking. So the approach to this then is, I do 4 week blocked cycles. And in that 4 weeks, there is one skill focus and there is one review skill focus, which I usually take from a previous 4-week block. So for example, if I'm teaching my youth and mini group and they are doing level 2 and they are about to do their standing back handspring 4-week block, the one skill review will usually be a mixture of the one that came before or the one where I think there is serious issues. So let's just say, for example, the skill they were focusing on before was the front handspring. They will get a 5 to 10 minute slot where they are just working on the drills and the performance of that skill. And that will usually be in an open circuit. And that won't be a timed circuit. That'll just be a circuit where they can go around the drills, work on the shaping, work on the performance. And that will be our review circuit, which, like I said, will normally take 5 to 10 minutes. And then we have our review skill. So then we have our focus skill. And that will generally be broken down actually into two separate circuits. And I will talk about this later, but that will generally be broken down into two separate circuits. And that will be the shaping of the skill and the performance of the skill. And I always make sure I break them down differently because the shapes are so important. So at AEC, I teach the new skill progression. So that's what I would do if I was teaching new skills. But then the level skills will be down to the lead coach of that team. So the lead coach will take responsibility for tidying up the back walkovers for their level 1 team if I'm teaching back handsprings for that age group. And then just to kind of preempt a question, the way that we usually group it at AEC is we have mini and youth athletes in one group and then junior and senior athletes in one group. The reason why we group it that way is that our weekly calendar is Monday to Friday. Saturday and Sunday, the gym gets rented out, so athletes aren't generally in the gym that day. And across Monday to Friday, we have 2 training sessions for each team. And we also have open gyms, and sometimes we have late night bookings. So our schedule is quite packed. So we group them by mini and youth, junior and senior, and then those those groupings are then broken down into what level skill they're focusing on. So it's quite a crazy week in the gym. So the next one, so moving on from the approach then, I want to talk about context. And the context of your gym, the context of your athletes, and the context of yourself. And so the thing I wanted you to think about here is do what you need to do, not what you want to do. All right. And that's quite a difficult one. And that's a difficult one for me as well, because as coaches, we are all really ambitious and we all want to be at Worlds or wherever, Summit. Okay, we all want to have our teams in those competitions. But what is the cost of that, right? Because I suppose you need to push your kids, or you want to push your kids because they're paying customers, they want an amazing experience and they want to progress, right? But you still need to meet them where they are, not where you want to be, right? So if you've got an athlete, and some of this will be parental influence as well, but if we're in a position where we're kind of like, oh, I need to get this round off back handspring back tuck for my level 3 team, but the back handspring isn't quite where it needs to be yet, then we're probably causing ourselves more problems than we are solutions. If we're meeting the athletes where they are, we're going to build confidence. We're going to build, well, probably the most important thing of all, we're building confidence first, but the main thing that we're building here is trust. Our athletes need to trust us. If they don't trust us and they get that feeling this is all a little bit rushed, this is all a little bit chaotic or chancy, I guess, then how are they going to feel when they perform the skill? You know, we want them to be able to feel they have complete ownership over what they're doing, and that when they do it, they know that they are 100% safe and supported. And, you know, I'm quite fortunate. I'm 5'11", I'm quite big. I can pluck someone out of the air, right? Not every tumble coach is built like me, right? So when we're teaching them, a lot of the time we're going to be teaching them hands off. So they need to be able to feel that they are secure in what they are doing. And this will help with less mental blocks and less injuries. And that's a sword I'm willing to die on. Mental blocks will still occur and injuries will still occur, but that we have less likelihood of them occurring because of the way that we've built them up. Yes, we want to be successful, but we also want to be a gym where athletes know where they know if they come, know if they come, they're going to feel supported and that they have their interests are at the center of what they are doing. And I think that's the most important thing. Though the athletes, when they come, they know they are safe. And I'll give you an example of this. I've got a few athletes working level 3, and one of the athletes joined from a program nearby a couple of years ago, 2 seasons ago, so at the beginning of last season, and they had nice tumbles, um, but their tuck was all over the place. And that's not a criticism of the previous gym. That's just their tuck was all over the place. And so I spent almost a year just working shape and angles with this athlete. And then at the beginning of this season, we started looking at the tuck, and there was no rush. I didn't put a timestamp on this, just let the athlete feel their way because they were not confident with not putting their hands on the floor in tumble skills. And this athlete now will just walk into the gym and will start working her round of flick tuck. And it's wonderful because she knows that she's been able to achieve it in a way that's the right way for her. Some athletes like I said, we have to meet the athletes where they are. Some athletes like that pressure, and some athletes need that nurturing. And there is a balance, and there's sometimes you've got to push the nurturers and nurture the ones who like the challenge. So it is a juggling act, but I think it's important that we find a middle ground and not just focus on perhaps which I've been guilty of in the past as well, focusing on what I want to achieve with athletes rather than perhaps what they want to achieve as athletes. So that's kind of like the approach and the context stuff. I'm going to talk about the individual sessions now, and how I would basically build myself up towards a 1 hour tumble class. Our classes are 1 hour. Athletes train 2 times a week for 1.5 hours. So they get 3 hours of team training, and then they get 1 hour of tumble session. And then they have the option of one-to-ones with various members of coaching staff if they want them. So all in all, athletes are getting a minimum of 4 hours a week. And I already know I'm preaching to the choir. In an ideal world, we would coach them for more because there is just so much that needs to be done. If we've got like gymnasts training for 16 hours a week on a basic sort of level, really, once you leave rec. And so if you think about the shape work, the muscle memory and all of that, it's completely different to what we're achieving as cheerleading coaches in 4 hours. It's almost, it's a miracle by comparison what we're achieving as coaching with our athletes. So the way I break down my sessions, the main thing I want you to think about is autonomy. Autonomy is routine. So autonomy, if an athlete knows that you have a clear routine, a clear approach to your classes, that creates a clear expectation, which creates a habit, which creates culture. And one of the main things that we want with our athletes is to know that when they come into the gym, there is a clear expectation for that session, and that there will be things that they will have to do. That is the habit. But that habit equals results, and that habit will equal culture. We can do all the fun stuff and juggle for our kids all we want, but at the very basis of what we're doing, that habit is going to create the results. And when the results are good, we have a really positive culture in the gym, right? When we're kind of feeling our way and it's all a little bit chaotic, the athletes will feed off that, and that will be the culture of the gym. Autonomy creates expectation, which creates habits, which creates culture. So, like I said in the opening, my sessions are 4 weeks. They are 4-week blocks, and in every session, those sessions are the same. So in that 4-week block, the sessions are exactly the same, aside from a few adjustments. Now, on the one side, it is repetitive. And so then you have to kind of rely on the personalities of the kids, the personality of yourself, the music that you play during practice, all of that type of stuff. But that's the cultural, aspect of the gym. But when it comes down to the sessions, once they've done the first session, they know what the expectation is for the next, or what they're going to be doing for the next 3 weeks after that. And although the content might change, the structure is the same. is the same in every session, and I'll break that down in a sec. So why do I do this? It's a clear expectation of the demands of the session and the skill, muscle memory and reps, confidence, and then I focus it on shape and performance. So the shaping of the skill and then how to perform the skill. And the shaping of the skill lends itself to the performance. So like I said, our sessions are 1 hour, and this is how I break them down. We have the warm-up, which can be something dynamic or something cardio based. And then I focus on the hips and the glutes, because the hips and the glutes then give me my work up to my core. And the hips and the glutes, maybe not the glutes so much, but definitely those hip flexors. We spend so much time flexing or stretching out our hip flexors, and we don't do enough condition of them. And so like when we get in those gangly gangly hollow arch to hollow shapes out of a back handspring, I often find that we're telling them to squeeze and they haven't got a clue what they're being asked to squeeze. So they squeeze their bums and think that's enough, but actually there's so much more going on. So I spend time on the hips and the glutes. Then we do some flexibility work, and that's kind of like the general 3-part warm-up that I do. And then it gets into kind of the more intense stuff. So I do something that's called 9 panels for success. And we just called it 9 panels in the gym now, but when I'm introducing it to them or whatever for the first time, we called it 9 panels for success because there's 9 panels on the cheer floor. And what they get is they get 9 exercises that they have to do that is relative to the skill that they are focusing on in that 4-week block. And I kid you not, I am so glad. This is probably my favorite thing that I've done. It's not popular with the kids to begin with, but it does pay off. So like I said, 9 exercises that is relative to the skill that they are focusing on in that 4-week block. And just as an example, let's talk about what's this one? So I had my kids doing, where is it? All right. So I had my kids work. So I had my level 2 kids doing a back handspring masterclass. So they could already back handspring, but I wanted to improve their back handspring technique. So we did a back handspring masterclass for 4 weeks, and they had to do 9 panels for success, and each panel was 30, or each exercise was 30 seconds long. So these were the exercises they had to do, and it was all towards geared strengthening out their back handspring and making sure they could really visualize and feel, which is most like is something that we take for granted. I think sometimes is actually feel what they're supposed to feel when they're performing the skill. So they did hip raises, crab lifts, which is all centered around the glutes and the hamstrings. They did arm raises, which is flexibility for the shoulders. Then they did bridge rocks and bridge hops. So they were in their bridge position and they were rocking back and forth, opening their shoulders, really feeling what the open shoulders should feel like over the open lower back, which is what we want to avoid. And then they did bridge hops where they were lifting their feet up in line with their belly button so that we had that nice kind of open arch shape. And then they were doing front support, handstand hops, elbow holds, and then hollow and arch. And each of those were 30-second exercises across the 9 panels. And I'm not going to lie, it's pretty brutal because it's not, okay, 30 seconds and move. They're all in their places, and it's 30 seconds hip raises, go. Straight into crab lifts. And it is just 4.5 minutes of non-stop exercising, or holding specific body shapes or whatever. And it is pretty brutal. So you're going from bridge rocks into bridge hops into handstand hops. That's just intense 1.5 minutes worth of workout. But it was really helpful because it was already getting them to work the things I needed them to work in the rest of the session. After that, we do a handstand circuit or line work, depending on the level. So if they are sort of level 1, 2, or 1 transitioning to, we do a handstand circuit because the handstand is, I don't know how much of a debate it is really, but it's probably the most important skill an athlete will ever learn. So it's either a handstand circuit or line work. And the line work will then progress up through sort of like some of the skills into whatever is appropriate for what they're working on at that time. And then we do the skill review. And then after the skill review, I've already spoken about that a little bit. And then after the skill review, we do the shape circuit, which is then followed by the performance circuit. After that, we have the warm down and then the debrief. That's 1 hour. And I swear to you, I run it like a drill sergeant. The only thing I don't have is the whistle, right? But I've got the voice for it. But that is 1 hour. And those kids, those kids know they've been in a workout, right? It's really fast, it's really intense, but it's really directed. And what I found is actually that directed time, that really specifically directed time, the kids feed off it, or I've found that the athletes feed off it. And you know, I use a variation of this format when I'm visiting other programs as well. Like I kind of, you know, mix it up a little bit. I don't always do the 9 panels or whatever, but for the most part, my structure is pretty much the same. But the sessions I do when I'm traveling are usually an hour and a half or 2 hours. So everything is just extended a little bit. The rotations are extended. I'll talk about rotations later. But yeah, so in 1 hour, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 different things that we do across that hour. And it's all just one after the other. And as I set up the circuit, they can grab a quick water break and then they run back. But for the most part, if I can, I set up the circuits before. If the space is available, I'll have them warm up on one of the floors and then we go to the other floor for the circuits. Because we're fortunate enough to have 2 sprung floors. So we break it down like that. And like I said, the results have been really positive. The athletes are working hard, but they're feeling what they need to feel when they perform the skills, which I think has really helped. So that's the way I would break down the sessions. So I'm just going to talk about the shape part of the skill focus because it's a bit of a. I've got a poster of this. I'll make sure I put it in the I'll put it in the when I upload it with this video. I'll make sure the poster's there as well. But you have to imagine that the shapes are the jigsaw pieces to a skill, and each shape is really important to achieving that skill. So if you talk, for example, about a back handspring is made up of an athletic position, it's made up of an arch, it's made up of a handstand, it's made up of a hollow, it's made up of another athletic position stroke hollow sort of position as they land. So all of those skills, an athlete needs to have a really good understanding of what they are and what they should feel like at certain times to be able to perform a back handspring successfully. It helps with understanding, it helps with dynamics, it helps with confidence, but I think maybe perhaps the most important thing, it helps with self-confidence and accountability. If an athlete knows that they're supposed to make a handstand shape at the midpoint of their back handspring before they snap down into a hollow, why aren't they? Probably because they're not lifting their toes enough into the initial arch shape. Which then gives them things to think about, like, oh, okay, I need to make sure I'm doing this when I jump. So the shapes I found, and I've been teaching the shapes like that for donkeys now, but I think the shapes, I think one of the mistakes that people can make is they go in there teaching the skill. Okay, we're going to learn back handspring, and you're teaching the back handspring as a whole thing. And actually, I think if you break them down and teach them as shapes, an athlete can then be like, okay, I'm just focusing on this right now. And that's how the circuits really work out. So when I'm doing the shape circuits for a back handspring, for example, I might have a drill where the athlete is on their knees with a wedge or a mat behind them, and they swing their arm back like an athletic position, but then they bring their arms to their ears and tap the mat behind them and do like a little hop off their knees and just create like a baby arch shape. And it's just quite nice and getting them to think about, what do I need to do from here to here. Um, and then by the same token, I get them to lay, for example, for an arch shape, they lay with their feet against a wedge and the wedge is against the wall. And then they lift their feet up and then snap into an arch shape. Just so they can think about how aggressive they need to be and how much they need to be squeezing. Because if they don't squeeze, their bottom will drop. So just to think about how fast they need to be and how hard they need to be working when they do that shape. So I spend, yeah, like I said, we do a shape circuit and then we move into the actual body work of performing skill. And for that, and I'm saying this because I'm definitely guilty, if you can, simplicity is your best friend. So the most straightforward, simple drills are the most effective here. I think in the past, particularly myself, I was trying to create things that were just so outlandish and so unnecessary that I was kind of getting lost. I was getting lost in the creation of something where actually the simpler option is clearly the way forward. So what I would be giving you advice for here with the drills, this is for the performance part. They should be easy to perform. They should be easy to perform. They can think about the shapes they should be performing when they do the drill, and the athlete should understand what they should be feeling. All right, and if the drill is doing that, then you're putting them on the right track to be successful and learn the new skill that you're focusing on. And I'll use the example of the back handspring. I was doing some outlandish stuff and I was just like, what am I doing? And so I just wasn't getting athletes to jump enough when they were doing their back handsprings. So I did two things. When I was teaching the back handspring from basic, the athletes had to start on a floor with the mat behind them and they had to swing and jump up onto a mat. What did that help me do? It made them think about jumping and pushing through their toes, but it also got me then to talk to them about extending their body as they jumped rather than just jumping back with their bum doing nothing. You know, when you kind of get athletes jumping backwards with their bum sticking out. It got them to almost think about setting into the jump a little bit more, squeezing their glutes and really opening out their body, which is what they need to do when they do a back handspring. And then that then allowed me the luxury of coaching them to back handspring up a mat, which meant they were jumping more, they were opening out their body more effectively, they were faster, all of those things. So that one simple drill then helped me make things simpler as I progress through the back handspring and then the mastering of the back handspring. So yeah, simplicity is key. And then, sorry. I just want to talk about reps and rotation. So my advice here would be more reps, less rotation. Like I said at the beginning of the video, when athletes are doing their review skill, I normally let that just be an open circuit and the athletes can go around and work what they need to work and then perform the front, the whatever the skill is, in this case, front handspring. But when we are doing the focus skill, I have stopped letting athletes move from station to station and they get time circuits. And one of the reasons that I did this was because athletes would just go to the fun one or the one that they could do. And that's no good. So I started making it time circuits, and I've been doing that for a while, and isolating athletes in specific areas then means that they're feeling the difference between what an arch should feel like and what they should be doing with their handstand shape, or what they should be doing with a snap down, or what they should be doing with a block. And they're having more time to process that and engineer it and do all of the things that need to do that go with it. It's going to sound really cheesy, right? But I try to create circuits that tell the story of a skill. All right. So you start with the athletic position and then you end with the snap down landing, right? And you have to read the whole book, right? You can't just read parts of the book and then think that's enough, right? You have to read every section, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So you have to read the athletic position as much as you have to read the handstand block, or the snap down, or over the top tumbler down to front support, whatever it is. You have to be able to do every single part of that to perform the skill. So when I'm doing this, they get, for depending on the time. So for an hour session, they normally get 2.5 to 3 minutes per station, which again makes it really quite fast. But it means that they are having to do each part and process it and engage with it. And then that way, it makes it so much easier to then be like, when I do eventually spot them, to be like, where is your arch shape? All right. And then, like I said, although the structure stays the same, if then when I'm spotting the athletes, because there'll be a spotting station in this the second circuit as well. If I'm working with them and I'm thinking, do you know what, this feels heavy, or they're not, I can feel they're not pushing through their toes. That's where that drill came from that I posted on the Tumble Hub recently, of the back handspring drill, the kind of the set snap drill, or the set arch drill, pushing through the toes, because my own athletes were just not lifting their hips and pushing through their toes. So I do amend it, but it means that the athletes are getting the whole picture. And setting it up this way has really helped with the overall, has really helped with the overall performance. And although the athletes are getting a harder time of it, there comes a point where you start to feel satisfied with the workout that you're getting, because you know that it's pointing you in the right direction. So I think that is everything I wanted to talk about. I'm just going to recap very quickly the things that I have been speaking about. Be productive, not busy. Context, do what you need to do, not what you want to do. Autonomy is your culture genesis, right? If you get the autonomy down, everything else will fall into place and you'll have culture. Shapes are the stairway to success. Keep it simple. Reps over rotation. Read the whole book. All right. So if you got this far, thank you for listening. Like I said before, if you've watched it and you've got questions to ask, you can put them in the comments, because I'm going to upload it to YouTube. Or if you are in the Tumble Hub Facebook group, feel free to drop your questions below in the comment boxes there. And I will make sure that I've got a session outline. I've already created one because I just write all of my session plans now, but I will put a picture copy that I've made that you can look at there. And then I will put the shape poster in there as well, so that you can see some of the shapes that I use to teach my own athletes. But yes, I think I'm going to stop there, and thank you for watching. Now I just need to learn how to turn it off. Stop recording.